Members, good afternoon. Welcome to today's meeting. It's the appointed time. It's 2:30 now, and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since last meeting. After the last meeting, the Secretariat has not issued any papers. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular meeting of this panel will be held at 2:30 p.m. on the 6th of July. It's a Monday. The administration proposes discussing one item: latest developments of the Hong Kong Science Park and Inno Parks. It's the first item on the list of outstanding items for discussion. Do members agree? All right, thank you. Agenda item 3. Promotion of new industrialization development in Hong Kong. Let's welcome the government officials to come in. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button. Attending this item, we have Dr. Ge Min, Commissioner for Industry, and Mr. Percy Leung, Principal Assistant Secretary, as well as Ms. Lillian Cheung, Undersecretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry. I see that 8 members have asked to speak. Please walk us through the paper. Chairman, members, we are here today to brief members on the overall strategy, key measures, and latest progress of the government in promoting new industrialization in Hong Kong, and we'll set out how Hong Kong will drive industrial transformation and reshape a new industrialization system. The National 15th Five-Year Plan emphasizes the deep integration of technological and industrial innovation, the establishment of a modern industrial system with advanced manufacturing as the backbone, and the consolidation of the real economy. It clearly requires that significant progress be made in new industrialization during the period. Hong Kong must proactively align with the overall national development strategy, seize the opportunities arising from the global technological revolution, and explore new sources of economic growth. Under one country, two systems, Hong Kong possesses a highly internationalized and market-driven business environment. We have the unique advantages of being backed by the motherland and connected to the world. In response to the complex and evolving global landscape, the Hong Kong government has been reshaping the industrial system in Hong Kong and promote new industrialization. To promote new industrialization is not about the reshoring of traditional manufacturing or the expansion of individual production processes. Rather, we focus on promoting industries towards high value density, high technological content, and high value added to progressively establish a modern industrial system. We proactively dovetail with national strategies. For example, in September 2024, we signed the cooperation agreement on the development of new productive forces with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. The agreement supports Hong Kong in developing new productive forces in accordance with local conditions, advancing new industrialization, strengthening collaboration in industry and information technology. In December last year, we commenced a consultancy study on the medium to long-term development plan for new industrialization in Hong Kong. We have proposed some principles after the carrying out of the study. Building on the foundation of traditional industries, we will accelerate the development of strategic emerging industries and producer services, and we will invest in future industries to build a more resilient and diversified industrial structure. This includes consolidating traditional industries. We will promote upgrading towards high-end intelligent and green development. On promoting emerging industries, we need to promote emerging industries as a medium-term growth engine. We will leverage the resources in the Greater Bay Area and to complement downstream manufacturing. On promoting future industries, we'll focus on forward-looking deployment. We will make use of patient capital to build long-term strategic value so as to build momentum for the next wave of industrial breakthroughs. On producer services, we will focus on testing and certification, standards development, and technology financing. The SAR government has put in place a number of measures to promote new industrialization. We adopt an industry-driven approach. We support downstream sectors as well as upstream and midstream sectors. There is the new industrialization funding scheme, the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, new industrialization acceleration scheme, the national manufacturing innovation center to be built, the new industrialization elite enterprises nurturing scheme, and so on. We will leverage our role as the super connector and super value adder to facilitate INT enterprises from the mainland and overseas to land in Hong Kong or expand their operations here. We will improve the industrial chain and promote new industrialization. Talent is also crucial. As we promote new industrialization, we will continue to enrich our pool of INT talent. Lastly, it is worth noting that the government, in May this year, improved the scope of economic activities and statistical framework covering the current manufacturing and new industrialization-related industries. The framework now covers publishing and packaging, which has to do with intellectual property. We also cover cloud services and computing services. We have made reference to the UN framework as we classify the various industries under the framework, and we will cover businesses involving outsourced production processes. According to the latest statistics, in 2024, manufacturing and new industrialization-related industries account for 3.8% of our GDP. This shows that our policy measures have been effective in promoting our economic diversification as well as competitiveness. We will continue to build the system to promote new industrialization. Will dovetail with the National 15 Five-Year Plan. Will make use of our cutting edges as well as resources in order to build a pathway for new industrialization centered on high value density. Now, I welcome any views from members. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chung. I'll read out the names of the members who have pressed the request to speak button. Mr. Jimmy Mr. Sunny Tan, Mr. Chu Lap Wai, Professor William Wong, Mr. Andrew Yao, Mr. Dennis Leung, Professor Priscilla Leung, Mr. Ray Wong, and Mr. Peter Xu. 9 members in total. We only have about 14 minutes for this item. I will give each member 3 minutes for the first round. Mr. Jimmy The consultancy study is being carried out. It is expected that within this year the study will be completed. Will the consultant make reference to the Hong Kong INT development blueprint and come up with KPIs to promote economic diversification and to enhance our competitiveness? If there will be KPIs, can you tell us the details? Also, in relation to the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, according to the paper as at May 2026, 25 enterprises have been registered on the website and they will make applications. I want to know how many applications have you approved and how many applications were successful and how much subsidy have you given to the applicants, and will you study regularizing this pilot scheme? Under Secretary. On the consultancy study, I'll defer to the INT Commission. As for the other question, I'll ask Ms. Rosalind Chen to reply. Dr. Gerning. As the member said, we are carrying out the consultancy study in full steam. We have to first build a new industrialization system in Hong Kong, and then we have to think about how to materialize the measures. There are 2 layers of KPIs. To give you an example, as the Undersecretary said, as at 2024, manufacturing and new industrialization-related industries account for 3.8% of our GDP. That's about $115 billion. That will be our target in the coming few years, and this will be included in the first 5-year plan for Hong Kong. That's the first layer of KPIs. Second layer, we want these industries to address our manpower shortage, and we will announce the details in one go where appropriate. Ms. Rosalind Cheung, the second question is about the Manufacturing Plus scheme, that is the Pilot Manufacturing and Production Line Upgrade Support Scheme. The scheme was rolled out in November last year. In the initial phase, the government departments as well as the Secretariat of the scheme, that is the Productivity Council, worked on the details. About a month ago, about 40 organizations registered. And a month later, another 20 organizations registered. And in total, we have about 60. Last month, we saw an increase of 50% in terms of the number of applicant organizations. We have fine-tuned the scheme. We ask applicants to complete certain procedures online, and there are some 20 organizations going through this procedure. And we are also working on approving the applications. Mr. Sunny Ten, I have questions about the medium to long-term plan of the government as well. In the consultation paper of the 5-year plan, there is mention that we want to promote traditional industries as well as new industrialization-related industries. For new industries, it covers advanced manufacturing as well as producer services. In terms of medium and long-term development, what are the plans of the government? I'll ask Dr. Ge to reply. In terms of our medium to long-term development plan, as mentioned in the paper, we will integrate manufacturing as well as producer services. We will improve the development of manufacturing industries by enhancing the industries. We'll also develop emerging and future industries. We think that these two kinds of industries can complement each other and address our needs. Also, under the National 15th Five-Year Plan, there are plans to upgrade our production lines, and Hong Kong has its advantages in this regard, so we will do our best to accelerate the development of producer services. We want to also focus on IT industries, fintech, as well as technology-related industries, such as industrial design and R&D. Next, Mr. Chu Lap Wai. I support the government's work in promoting new industrialization. I have two questions. I'm looking at paragraph 12. Regarding the new industrialization acceleration scheme, the scheme was rolled out in September 2024. As at 2026, only 5 cases got the subsidy, and also the minimum total project cost requirement was lowered from $300 million to $150 million. I want to know why were there such changes? My second question concerns the $10 billion Industry Orientation Fund. Last July, the Finance Committee approved the funding proposal, and it's been about a year, but there is no update on the scheme. Are there any concrete timetables on establishing sub-funds, the management fee of the fund of funds, as well as details on fund managers? Thank you.
Undersecretary, I thank the member for his support. He mentioned the $10 billion INIAS. That scheme is well underway. after the scheme came out, 10 applications were received. Every application involved upwards of $100 million. To ensure proper use of public funds, we have to take a rigorous approach to vetting. We take an industry-oriented approach. That's why shortly after the launch of the scheme, we did a review. We lowered the application threshold. For those interested in setting up production lines here, including pilot production lines here, these applicants can now apply for the scheme. We got more response as a result of the change. Now, we still have to go through the vetting procedure. It's still ongoing, but I can reassure members that we can complete the approval in 2 to 3 months' time, so it's a quick process. These enterprises invest a huge sum. They need a lot of land. They also require sites with support facilities nearby, and that also explains the long time needed for preparations. Now, for the INT industry-oriented fund, we're proceeding full steam ahead with the scheme. 2 months ago, we started inviting applications. Now we have met with the eligible GPs. Within this year, we will announce the results. On the exit mechanism, this is a market-driven approach. There's a global selection process to find the GP for managing the funds, and the management fees are also subject to this market-driven process, and that's all set out clearly. Will the figures be made public? We can do that. We did announce the figures. Professor William Wong. I also have questions about the NIAS. Based on the information I found, in December 2024, we were told about 6 applications. And then a year later, we got 10 applications. Only 5 have been approved. Is that number in line with expectations? At one point, we lowered the threshold to $150 million. Will we consider further lowering the threshold so that small and medium businesses can apply for it? Now I turn to a question about talent. We bring in strategic enterprises. How do we avoid that scramble for talent, such that SMEs and startups have a hard time recruiting and retaining talent? The paper says the ITIB has nurtured 650 startups, tech startups with potential, so meaning these are the tech startups brought in by the ITIB. Apart from attracting outside tech startups, how do we keep the firms here? How do we help them scale up and grow strong? What measures do we have on this front? On the NIAS, we have approved support for 5 projects. The support involves a huge sum. We have spent $800 million on the support. We channeled roughly $2 billion in private funds, so that points to the massive leveraging effect. The businesses involved also bring with them industry chains such as health and healthcare, life and health sciences. And we also need talent to go hand in hand. On whether we have a goal to move even faster. At this point, there are 7 applications in the queue. there will be more to come. With the Loop and the Sentin Technopole, more land will come out. Under the Science Park, there are reforms going on at the inner parks. We're looking at ways to lower the production costs for businesses. We're also looking into ways to optimize the scheduled payments for businesses looking to lease the land. Businesses have to put in a huge upfront payment. In light of that, we are introducing reforms. We expect more applications and more businesses who will apply under the NIAS. On talent, we have to build capacity. The same goes for both the economy and the talent. The member wondered if bringing in enterprises leads to a scramble for talent with SMEs. We have to grow the pie first. Under the HKINT blueprint, in 2022, we had a KPI. By 2027, we wanted 50,000 professionals. Now we are at 60,000. We want to attract more businesses. We want to attract, nurture, and strengthen local tech startups. With the tech businesses here, we have jobs, and that's how we can keep the talent. Otherwise, the talent goes elsewhere. For sure, we find ways to support SMEs in terms of operating costs and also helping SMEs attract talent. We also have to expedite the work on strategic enterprises. We have the Race Plus scheme. That scheme gives more opportunities for talent to stay in R&D. We can also attract local and non-local talent under Race Plus. On retaining tech startups that have come here and helping them grow. For new industrialization, we want to build the ecosystem. So we have to go beyond funding. We need talent, we need land, we have to achieve integration of education, technology, and talent. We also have to provide follow-up services. We provide services across the board for businesses. So we help them with setting up the operation, IP alignment with standards, pilot production. We provide a full range of services. We will keep working on that. Mr. Andrew Yao. I recognize the government's effort and also the vision and the planning for medium to long-term new industrialization. Now we've just heard about pilot production and commercializing R&D outcomes. This is a challenge. Now with the Unitown and the entire northern metropolis, that place will provide the best conditions for R&D. Now on space, do we have specific policies for integrating university R&D and the Sentin Technopole? Can we use land grant as a way to create a frontier technology area to achieve integration of research, academia, and universities? Mr. Yao's questions show foresight. This is also a core theme in the consultation document for our first five-year plan. The NM will be key to our future development. The Unitown will play a crucial role in the northern metropolis. The Unitown will be about more than just about strengthening our existing edge in upstream research. It's about turning Hong Kong into a globally competitive place for pilot production and also research, academic, and industry collaboration. We build on the basis of foundational research. We step up international R&D collaboration. so that we can achieve interdisciplinary collaboration. So on our plans for the spatial layout, there are three core areas for the Unitown. First, we have the Unitown, which will focus on life technology. This is because as the HKUST will run the third medical school, they will also be teaching cum research hospital. Yaotanmei is close to the Loop and the Santin Technopole. And one key industry in the future will be life and health technology. So everything has to come together. Once we bring in more outside universities, and we have our local universities in there, the government and industries can provide the facilities to foster the implementation of R&D outcomes. In different parts of the NM, we will see pilot production and the commercialization of R&D outcomes. We also have the massive supply chain and industry chain in the rest of the Greater Bay Area, and that makes the NM more attractive. And we will keep working towards the directions mentioned by Mr. Andrew Yao, Mr. Dennis Leung. I can see the government has put in much work in new industrialization and driving innovation in technology. The paper covers many existing schemes. Paragraph 9, NIFS, 77 applications, 130 production lines. Paragraph 10, pilot manufacturing and production line upgrading support scheme. Paragraph 12, NIAS, 5 applications. Paragraph 18, INT Venture Fund, 48 local tech startups. There's a matching ratio of 1 to 2. Paragraph 21, 650 businesses coming here from the mainland and Hong Kong, and we also have the Research Talent Hub. Can we have more details on a list of companies that have applied for the funding? Which areas are these companies in? How much are these companies investing? That will give us greater clarity over where we are doing well, and then we can tell Hong Kong's story well, so that we can bring in more interested companies to help us achieve finance in the south and INT in the north. On traditional industries adopting new technologies, how many jobs are created for local workers? Can we have the figures on the extra jobs created? Paragraph 25. And this has to do with the share of the manufacturing and new industrialization related industries in the GDP. The 2024 figure was 3.8%. Do we have figures covering 2021 to 2024? If we stuck to the old statistical model and we contrast that with the new statistical criteria, can we do a comparison so that we can see the results we have achieved with our work? I will take the first two questions. On the last question about the figures, the commissioner can take that question. The member made a good point. A look at the names of the schemes doesn't tell us a lot. These schemes are part of a broader approach. It's about supporting local manufacturing sectors. Some are in the traditional sectors, such as food and pharmaceutical manufacturing, watches, garments, and textiles. Those industries want to expand their production lines. They want to adopt smart production lines, so many of these companies have applied for our funding schemes. Now, on the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, each production line can qualify for subsidies up to more than $10 million. New industrialization has to support traditional industries in upgrading and transformation. So for industries with existing production lines, they don't want new production lines. They simply want to adopt technology, to adopt data technology. So this is where the upgrade support scheme comes from, or manufacturing plus comes from. We also have to promote strategic emerging industries and industries of the future, and that means life technology, AI, robotics, microelectronics on top of conventional industries. We try to get these businesses to set up manufacturing bases here. We want them to set up production bases for pilot production. That will involve the building of large manufacturing bases. So this is where the NIAS comes in. So there are different schemes for different kinds of industries, conventional industries and emerging strategic industries. The figures are available online. You can see the results online. Our future direction is that we provide the funding. Then these industries provide the economic boost. We will also look at how many jobs are created. Under the NIAS, hundreds of technical posts are created. Do we make a distinction between local and outside talent? That's Mr. Leung's question. We don't have a detailed breakdown. We do not require businesses to make this distinction. We tell tech businesses this. In microelectronics, Hong Kong lacks this kind of talent. So in the early days of the manufacturing base, those outside tech businesses brought in their own workers. And under the NIAS, we created a channel for businesses to brought in their own professionals. But we also tell each enterprise that we want their outside talent to help train up our local workers. So the VTC and VI also work with these tech firms to train our local talent.
Dr. Ge, please be brief. One purpose to conduct statistical studies is to accurately reflect local economic activities. Second, we want to review the effectiveness of our policy measures and refine them. Last year, we published the New Industrialization Index, and the figure stood at 2.6 compared to the figure in 2023 and 24. We saw a yearly increase of about 7%. This year, we adjusted the figure to 3.8%. In December this year, we will publish a new figure, and we believe there will be an increase too. We made the adjustment because the United Nations published a new way of making the calculation, and we want to satisfy the requirement of the UN. Next, Professor Priscilla Leung. Chairman, I read the part on INT of the first 5-year plan consultation paper. I'm glad that it emphasizes collaboration among academia, research, as well as the industry sector. I want to know how the government will achieve its goal. Paragraph 10 of the paper says that 64 enterprises are going to submit applications, and that pilot scheme was rolled out in November last year. It's been 7 months and you haven't approved one single application yet. Is it because of the procedures or the requirements, or are there considerations behind enterprises on the matching ratio of 1 to 2? Now I would like to turn to paragraph 12. You said there are 5 applications and some of them come from private investment. You have put in $1 billion. So I want to know the breakdown of the money you have spent. Are you spending more money on certain applications or projects? Now on paragraph 15, there is an end date to the application period. The Pilot Innovation and Technology Accelerator Scheme was rolled out in January this year, and the application period will close on the 30th of April 2026. How many applications have you received and how many of them met the eligibility or the requirements? Also, I'm interested in the other investment you made. For example, you said you invested $1.25 billion, and how many private enterprises also made investments? Ms. Lillian Cheung. I thank Professor Leung for the questions. I believe the member would like to learn more about the schemes and see if there is a further room for improvement. In the interest of time, I may not be able to provide all the figures and statistics in one go, but where appropriate, I will provide supplementary information. On Manufacturing Plus, we have approved the first application. We have reached out to 2,500 enterprises that have to do with new industrialization and 30-some chambers of commerce. The matching ratio is set at 1 to 2 under the pilot scheme. And the member asked if this is a problem for applicants. We will see if we can offer further support to applicants or enterprises. Well, as you know, we have just launched this scheme for about half a year. We'll first talk to the different chambers of commerce and see how we can offer solid support to enterprises to speed up the application process. That's the first thing we will do. Now, under the acceleration scheme, we have approved 5 applications. The government has chipped in $800 million and we've attracted $2 billion of investment. We have included the details of the funds we put in on the ITC's website. The projects mostly focus on advanced manufacturing as well as biotech. If necessary, we'll provide further information. Now, on pharmaceutical, some of the projects ask for a few $1,000,000, and we put in $300 million. And for some projects, they put in $400 million, and we invest $104 million. And another project that is on energy, it invests $200 million and we invest $80 million. It takes time for the enterprises to procure the equipment they need. So we'll have to wait until the factories are constructed, and then we can provide a more detailed breakdown on the amount of money we have invested. Now, on the accelerator scheme, the application period ended in April this year. We've held various briefings under the scheme, and we have received 53 applications under the scheme so far. The application period ended on the 30th of April, and we are now working on approving the applications, and when ready, we will announce the results. We want to see if the accelerator scheme can help us bring in overseas as well as mainland enterprises. We hope these enterprises will bring in their own capital as well. The member mentioned collaboration among academia, research sector, and industry. We will see how we can streamline the application process for enterprises. One more point, Chairman. I hope that the information will be provided to us in the future so as to enrich our discussion. And that could serve as a reference for enterprises that will make an application. Yes, please provide the relevant information to Professor Leung. This session is supposed to end at 3:15, but I believe we have ample time. 3 members are waiting to speak on this item. I'll give each member 3 minutes, including questions and answers. Mr. Ray Wong. Our biggest advantage does not lie in large-scale production. Rather, we have world-class universities as well as international research personnel. If we can integrate our strengths with that of the GBA and our country, it will contribute to the high-end development of our nation. I'd like to ask about the plan for core technology and sectors. On AI, satellite, aerospace technology, we are quite competitive. For example, we have an astronaut going to the space station of our country. However, we may not have enough patents that address the needs of the industry. I want to know if there are core technology sectors that we will work on. Apart from developing products, will we channel the R&D outcomes to the core technologies and parts required for the development of our country so that we can contribute to the high-end development of our nation? Second, on collaboration among research sectors and other industries, I know that under ITC as well as various universities in Hong Kong, there are technology transfer platforms. I want to know how industries can leverage these platforms and channel the capital to where it is needed. My question is, will an industry-driven or industry-oriented mechanism be set up to rationalize the various R&D projects of local universities? I've talked to the heads of universities, and they said it's hard for them to rationalize and consolidate their R&D projects. From an entrepreneur's perspective, we hope to learn more about where the investment or capital has gone. So we hope that the relevant information could be consolidated and compiled. Undersecretary, in the interest of time, I will give a brief answer. The member raised 2 important points. First, on I&T development, we have to know where our strengths lie. We have to know where our strengths lie when compared to other places in the world. There are 3 strategic sectors we focus on: AI, life and health technology, and advanced manufacturing, which cover energy materials. In the future, we will focus on, for example, aerospace, marine exploration, as well as quantum technology. All these are to dovetail with national strategies. Therefore, starting from 2022, we have the I&T development blueprint, and the blueprint talks about how we need to dovetail with the overall development of our country. We also have to dovetail with national strategies. We wrote out $3 billion frontier technology project, and the industry that we picked under the scheme are the industries that our country want to focus on. So we share the same views with the member. The member mentioned another important point. Apart from dovetailing with national strategies, we need to commercialize and transform R&D outcomes. That's why we signed the cooperation agreement with the Ministry of Information and Technology. This is about transforming industries and how we can leverage the resources so that we can dovetail our industrial chains with that of our country. Apart from focusing on local development, we want to focus on the development in the Greater Bay Area. We want to build a platform that help enterprises to go global. These are part of our strategies. Another point mentioned by the member is that we need to match R&D outcomes of local universities with market capital. We've been talking about developing financial technology. This is because we want to leverage technology to support the development of the real economy. We do not just want to promote new industrialization. Instead, we want to bring together capital to help promote the development of the industries. We have a $10 billion INT fund, and we've also improved the 1.5 ITIF program, and we have selected 9 global fund managers, and the matching ratio is 1:3. These managers will bring billions of dollars to make investment in Hong Kong. All these schemes and programs help promote the INT industry in Hong Kong. Also, the member asked whether there will be any portals or platforms that enable investors to learn about the R&D achievements of local universities. Well, we have the Productivity Council that's been working on that. As to how we can make a more far-reaching impact, we'll look into this.
Yeah.
Mr. Peter Xu. On the ITIB's effort on new industrialization, this has been discussed over the years. I support this. The National 15th Five-Year Plan expresses support for technology, especially technological self-reliance and strength. We have to do more. A few days ago, the chief executive talked about our edge. We have universities, we have industries. We pool our resources. We also have a hospital in the NM, so we can make a breakthrough in medical technology. On conventional, emerging, and future industries, we have to consolidate everything. Paragraph 60 in the paper. Testing and certification standards, alignment with global practice, setting up standards, all these aspects matter. We want to export our products. We have our own standards. Our country also has national standards. Other places have their own standards. We have to harmonize the standards so that our products can be exported to different places. So I want to find out more about testing, certification, and standards. What can we do? Thank you. On testing and certification, standard development, and technical alignment with global practice, Hong Kong has an edge. That's why we stressed the need to develop producer services. Here's our approach. One concrete measure under planning is that we are aligned with global technical standards. Our country is doing well in new energy vehicles. Our country is leading the world in this. But then our country has to align itself with EU standards and other overseas standards. It's not just about left-hand drive versus right-hand drive. the whole chassis and the entire underlying technology has to be adapted to global standards. This is where Hong Kong can leverage its unique edge. The Hong Kong Productivity Council is helping businesses with alignment with standards in the future. We're working with the Industrial Center of the UN. We're trying to put an Industrial Excellence Center in Hong Kong. That way, we can develop global industrial and technical standards in Hong Kong. Our country is already doing well in technology. We want our country to also be aligned with global standards. So we will work with the MIT and UNIDO. So this is something we're doing on testing, certification, and standards. For this work to proceed, we will need application scenarios. At the end of the day, you have to apply the standards, you have to calibrate the standards. So as a next step in promoting new industrialization, we will be focusing on not just pilot production platforms, but also more application scenarios so that industries or enterprises can develop new standards in application scenarios. Chairman, one comment: at the 2 sessions this year, I suggested turning Hong Kong into a center for developing standards so that we are aligned with global practice, and that will also bring more jobs to Hong Kong through emerging industries. Can we do more on this? We have up to 3:15 p.m. for this item, but we have another item lined up. So I really want to conclude the discussion at 4:30 p.m. Mr. Yu Ming has pressed the button, so I will draw the line here. No member has requested to speak for the second round. So after Mr. Yu Ming speaks, we will conclude this item. Mr. Alan Chan. I'm all for the government's effort to drive new industrialization. I have a comment and a question. We have a comparative advantage. The US has Wall Street and Silicon Valley. We have development in finance, but we also need development in engineering and the arts to create jobs for our graduates. So I support the government's work. There are arguments that we have a comparative advantage. We are a hub for high caliber international talent. We have the best and brightest here. They pay 15% tax. If the same professionals go to the mainland, they have to pay their labor and medical social insurance contributions. They pay 40% tax. So it's cheaper for businesses to come here vis-a-vis going to the mainland. The mainland charges a 17% value-added tax. Hong Kong is an international talent hub. Shenzhen is a hub for mainland talent. And we can let the talent come here, so they are within the country, outside the mainland. There's much old money in Hong Kong struggling to invest. So the government should channel first-rate capital so that the old money knows where to invest. Now, on going global, the mainland businesses are looking at the global market. That's because the value-added tax is too high. Businesses can come here to move on to European and the US market. There's a success story in Hefei in future industries. They have quantum computing. Professor Pan Jianwei has a world-leading research team. They have surpassed the U.S. in speed. They also have the artificial sun that may happen in 10 to 20 years' time. Now, YMTZ was in the red last year. Now they're making a profit and they're looking to get listed at 3 trillion. And in Wuhan, they also have the YMTZ. It's 20 billion. Have we considered inviting these research teams and semiconductor businesses to come here? So some very specific questions. I thank Mr. Chen for his questions. The member mentioned Hefei. It's a landlocked city. With your permission, Chairman, I want to say something about this. I have been there twice. We have been in contact with those businesses. On whether they will come here, there are many factors they consider. Hefei plays a key role in our country's technology drive because that city is an inland city. It lacks natural resources. It's hardly an advanced city. In just 10 to 20 years' time, the city has transformed itself. The local government managed to get the Chinese technological university to go there. Under very tough conditions and scarce resources, they invested a third of their GDP in attracting that university. So can we do this at the same thing? We have to think about why they succeeded. Bringing the university there was not the only work they had to do. The academicians and professors from other parts of China struggled to adapt to the local climate in Anhui. So they even paused their subway project. They set up specific pipelines for heating just to support the university. So do we have the same resolve? They started with home appliances, and then they brought in JD, they brought in LCD panel, and then they moved on to chip making. And now they're making new energy vehicles and quantum technology. And they look out for businesses that are on the brink of bankruptcy, so they invest in those businesses. That's why we stress early investment, invest in small players, and investing in hardcore technology. We need strategic steadiness. We have to reform to succeed. We will uphold the same spirit in guiding Hong Kong to develop our INT. Here, I want to thank members. Members wonder we have committed so many resources, but where are the results? Of course, results matter, but please also understand that we have to give it time. We are results driven, we take an industry oriented approach. We also need academicians. Just then, you can look at iFly Tech. We went to Hefei, we approached the company, we talked to the chairperson of the board of directors. We reached out to the businesses so that they came here. If a company that can support our development in INT and support our country's tech drive, we will spare no effort to attract such businesses here so that they contribute to our ecosystem in industries and create jobs for our graduates. The last member to ask questions is Mr. Yu Ming.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. The accelerator scheme has rolled out for a year and a half, and the government has worked very hard on maintaining the scheme. The original goal is to attract 50 to 100 enterprises to invest $20 billion in Hong Kong. However, as at May this year, there were only 5 successful applications or approved applications, and the total investment amount was $3 billion. So how come the government failed to meet the expectation? And among the 5 approved applications, what are the industries involved? Can the government explain this to us? There are views that we do not have enough land, and that is the bottleneck for enterprises to pursue further development in Hong Kong. So I hope the government can take the opportunity to explain to the public. I'll ask Ms. Chen to elaborate. Thank you. The member asked about the Innovation and Technology Accelerator Scheme. As at May this year, we have supported 5 applications. Apart from government investment, we have channeled about $3 billion of investment into the projects, and we are not going to stop here. We know that there are experienced organizations on the market that have been encouraging enterprises to submit applications under their scheme. They explain to organizations how to make applications and what kind of support they will get. We are working on the approval of a number of applications now, and we hope that we can announce more approved applications later. As for the industries involved in these applications, as mentioned by the Undersecretary, they involve advanced manufacturing as well as life and health technology. There are views that we could refine the accelerator scheme so that more enterprises can benefit from this scheme. That's why, starting from last year, we lowered the minimum cost requirement from $300 million to $115 million. We do not just want to focus on one scheme. As mentioned by the Undersecretary, we have a series of initiatives that provide support to the industry to promote new industrialization. These schemes cover different scopes and provide various support. For example, we have the New Industrialization Acceleration Scheme, we have the Pilot Accelerator Scheme, as well as Manufacturing Plus. There are enterprises that would like to set up new production lines and upgrade or transform themselves, and based on their needs, we have all these schemes in place. Yes, Undersecretary. On the question about land, over the past 2 years, we'd like to attract industry leaders to come. They need a lot of land, and they do not only need a few hectares of land, they need dozens or hundreds of hectares of land because they need to set up large-scale factories. The SAR government does not wish a lack of land resources to be the bottlenecks of enterprises. That's why we're speeding up the development of the Santine Technopole. We are expediting the development, and we're confident that a lack of land resources will not be a bottleneck for enterprises. Apart from land, we have rolled out a series of reforms. Enterprises may think that it's expensive to build a factory. That's why we've rolled out reforms. Enterprises can rent spaces instead of build their own factories, and that can help lower their costs. They can instead spare money on procuring equipment and machines and invest in advanced technology so that they could see the benefits of pursuing long-term development in Hong Kong. In the past, they relied on rental income to support their development, and now they can stick to a different model. And we support enterprises in terms of financing arrangement. For example, some enterprises, they need a special kind of gas. They also need to meet requirements in order to pursue development here. In this regard, the New Industrialization Development Office as well as OASIS try to provide all-rounded support to enterprises. Members asked why there were only 5 applications approved. Well, first, I want to say that we remain confident. And second, we have been following up on each case, and that's why it takes time, and we will continue to work hard. Thank you. We're wrapping up this item here. I thank the relevant government officials for attending this item. Now we move on to the next agenda item. That's agenda item 4. Legislative proposal for facilitating digitalization of business-to-business trade documents. I now invite the relevant government officials to come in. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button. This is related to a legislative proposal, so all members of LegCo are invited to join the discussion of this item. Welcome, Dr. Bernard Chen, Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Mr. Andy Lam, Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Ms. Winifred Khan, Principal Assistant Secretary, and representatives from the HKMA. Now I invite Dr. Bernard Chen to walk us through the paper. Chairman, members, good afternoon. Today, my team and I are here to brief members on the legislative proposal for facilitating digitalization of B2B trade documents. In 2025 budget as well as the 2025 policy address, it is announced that we will refer to the model law on electronic transferable records advocated by UNCITRAL to facilitate the digitalization of B2B trade documents. Hong Kong is a financial, maritime, and trade center. We have to make sure that we dovetail with international standards to tie in with the digital development around the world so as to strengthen our competitiveness. The trade industry has to make use of electronic documents. Over the years, through the trade single window as well as the government electronic trading services have been promoting the digitalization of B2G trade documents. For B2B trade documents, which cover, for example, bills of lading as well as other transferable documents, because of traditional practices, the relevant sectors still rely on paper-based instruments. Transferable documents have to do with possession, and electronic records cannot solve problems concerning possession and the ability to transfer rights. However, with technological advancement, electronic transferable records now achieve the same functions. UNCITRAL in 2017 promulgated the model law, and that provides a recognized legal framework. A number of jurisdictions, including our major partners such as France, Singapore, and the UK as well as the mainland, have already made reference to the model law and enacted their own legislations. We suggest that we enact legislations on electronic records, and the new legislations will define the transferable electronic records. For example, promissory note as well as bills of lading will be covered under the framework. Any documents that meet the definition, even though they are not included in the non-exhaustive list, they could also be digitalized as per the future standards. We will adopt the factor-based approach. We will take into consideration security as well as the right to own the documents. Also, we will adopt proven in fact approach. If it is proven that the functions could be achieved, we would deem it as appropriate. We do not propose a regulatory regime or set certain technical standards. It is because we lack industry-driven proposals, and premature development may hinder cross-border interoperability. On demonstration of control, we will learn from the UK. We will make use of secure credentials or unique identifiers to allow a person to demonstrate control of an electronic transferable record. We also propose certain reproduction requirements. Say a document has to be changed from paper-based form to electronic form. All legally relevant information will have to be replicated, and a declaration on the change of medium will have to be included in order to safeguard the security. We will not ask the sectors to use electronic records. We will not mandate them to do so. This is because we want to strike a balance. We have received a total of 22 submissions from the financial sector, legal sector, as well as import and export sector, and so on. Respondents are in general supportive of the proposed legislative amendments. We are trying to provide an alternative to the trade instead of imposing a mandatory requirement to the trade. We want to come up with a forward-looking framework for the trade so that we can continue to be at the forefront in the industry. Our goal is to introduce the amendment bill into LegCo within this year. As we draft the amendment bill, we will maintain close communication with members as well as the relevant sectors. That's all from my report. We welcome any views from members. This discussion item is supposed to end at 4:25, so we have plenty of time. 7 members have asked to speak. I'm going to read out their names. Mr. Won-kit, Dr. Thomas So, Professor William Wong, Mr. Tommy Chong, Mr. Ray Wong, Mr. Dennis Leung, and Mr. Alan Chen. I'll give each member 4 minutes, including questions and answers. Mr. Won-kit will go first. Thank you. I'm happy that the government is following international standards, and it is referring to the model law promulgated by the UN CITRO. I think this is crucial for us to maintain our status as an international financial center. So in general, I support the legislative amendment. I want to ask about the roadmap for cross-boundary interoperability. We know that if Hong Kong single-sidedly imposes this requirement, it may affect our trade partners. So I am concerned about cross-boundary mutual recognition. Will there be a concrete roadmap or timeline to promote this? For example, in the Greater Bay Area, have we talked to the Customs and Excise departments in the mainland as well as the relevant departments on this? In the short run, will there be a cross-boundary electronic trade document mutual recognition scheme? Under Secretary, currently about 13 jurisdictions have enacted their legislations based on the model law. In the mainland, our country has been testing out the use of electronic trade documents, and they've also referred to the model law of the UN. Last year, our country made amendments to their maritime law, and they provided a legal basis for making use of electronic bills of lading. After the amendment has taken effect in May this year, they have followed the new practice. And after we have rolled out the legislative amendments that would enhance the mutual recognition of electronic records between Hong Kong and the mainland. Many of these details are set out in governing laws as well as contracts, so we do not need to worry too much about the mutual recognition framework.
Mr. Andy Lam. When we are trading with an outside partner, the mainland or overseas jurisdictions, the point about our legislative proposal is that if all trading partners stick to the same model law in their legislative framework, then we will achieve uniformity in the approach to negotiable instruments and documents. As the Undersecretary said, in our contract with non-local trading partners, the contract usually sets out the governing law that applies, and when a dispute arises, the court of a particular jurisdiction will have power over the contract. So if we agree on Hong Kong's law as the governing law, the contractual provisions will take effect accordingly, because this does not involve any reciprocal recognition. It's good enough as long as both contracting parties agree on the same governing law, so that would simplify matters. Dr. Thomas O. I support the proposal to amend the ETO so that we go paperless with electronic transferable records. The paper says there is no universal technical standard on B2B records, so there is no intention to come up with a mandatory system, and we will leave it to the market to develop electronic solutions. Technology neutral. A technology neutral approach is a defining feature of the model law, but I have some concerns. First, it has to do with the international experience. Singapore's government has enacted local legislation based on the MLETR. I have done online research. Singapore has their own trade trust platform developed by the government based on the blockchain technology that ensures security of cross-boundary trade documents. For us, we are the southern gateway of our country. The National 15th Five-Year Plan expressly supports Hong Kong's development as an international center in finance, trading, and shipping, and we are also supposed to be a hub for international talent. Other jurisdictions like Singapore have developed standards and come up with an official framework based on the model law. Singapore has done it. They have adopted a technology-neutral approach in setting their standards. Why can we not do the same? Now, we spent $1.8 billion on the trade single window. We have the B2G window in place. Given the existence of the B2G platform in place, can we take that as a basis? Yes, I can see the difference between B2B and B2G platforms. The government should have its own set of standards on converting paper-based documents to soft copies. So can we develop our own standards on trade documents. We were saying that Hong Kong should become part of the process of setting standards. Now, on facilitating B2B trade documents, I have a question about the speed. The paper says this electronic system will be optional. We leave it up to the market players. The system will be voluntary in nature. How fast will we be able to go if that is the approach? So apart from legislation, can the government also do more in terms of the measures? I will give a brief reply and then the Deputy Secretary can elaborate on the point. On the practice of overseas jurisdictions, the member mentioned Singapore. For the service providers of ETRs, Singapore has amended their legislation and they have imposed extra requirements, but their new system has yet to take effect. So they're still sticking to the model law. For other jurisdictions, such as the UK, they simply impose requirements on reliability. They have yet to put in place a mechanism where the government takes the lead. On the trade single window and other points, the Deputy Secretary can tell us more. As Dr. So said, the trade single window is for the industry to submit documents to the government. The government had to develop the single window because we're dealing with documents to be submitted to the government. The government wants to go paperless. We want to facilitate document submission. So the government developed this major platform. It's different for B2B documents. Our question that we must consider is, what is the role of the government? We understand there is trade trust in Singapore. We know there is such a platform. We do not comment on the uptake in Singapore. On the market, there are well-developed platforms such as IQAB, EBX, and there's also another European platform. Solutions are already available on the market, and those solutions are easily accessible. Developing a new platform from scratch will involve a huge investment, and that may not be most cost-effective way forward. Other overseas jurisdictions do not involve a government-led platform. So our current proposal will be more in line with the industry's needs. There's a question about speed. The process now is usually driven by companies. Say a transport company or a logistics company can adopt electronic bills of lading. If more companies adopt electronic options, the pace will pick up. It used to be 5%. Last year, it was 13%. So that was a marked increase. We provide the framework. We also want businesses to be comfortable with using the platform. If they can see the savings in time and money in using the platform, they will be happy to adopt the system. Professor William Wong. I support this legislative amendment, but the system will be voluntary in nature. In March 2025, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority released a report. Adoption of this electronic system for B2B documents in the next 10 years we will be able to save $34.9 billion in cost. So there is merit to such a system. Can we do wholesale digitalization? Now we are proposing a voluntary system only. We uphold a technology-neutral principle, but that may not always be the case. Hong Kong is promoting Web3. There is real-world asset. There is distributed ledger technology, or DLT. These technologies can be adopted for trading online. So I wonder, how can these technologies go hand in hand with this amendment proposal? Undersecretary, I will give a reply first, and then my colleagues can supplement my response. On promoting the use of digital trading documents, we have to be clear on the government's role. We have to create a legal framework that is clear and aligned with global practice, so that the trade documents have legal standing and are enforceable. Once we have the legal framework in place, the industry will see that the system is reliable, they will become more comfortable with the system, and then they will gradually adopt the electronic option. Now, how can the industry work together with the government on this? Going paperless with the trading document involves business dealings and trade arrangement between businesses. So that belongs to the private sphere, private commercial dealings. The government will do its part. We encourage the industry to adopt the different platforms available on the market. This is how we can ensure flexibility in the market. And this can also avoid duplication or a competing role between that played by the government and what the market is doing. Deputy Secretary, on the economic boost, let's see if the HKMA has anything to say. Mr. Chou, nothing to add. We still have time left. Professor Wang. I'm not talking about the platforms. We're talking about the technologies. Take blockchain that can support the decentralization process. We can convert paper-based documents into electronic files with RWA technology. We want to be the first mover, so we have to think about that, and we should keep that in mind in the legislative amendment. So I guess the question is there, or rather, are we making allowance for the technology in our legislative amendment? Different technologies are available on the market. Some adopt decentralization technology such as blockchain and DLT. Other players adopt a more centralized approach. They put all documents and data on the same cloud platform or repository. So different solutions are available on the market. In light of that, the government should provide a clear and reliable legal framework, and then we encourage the industry to achieve reliability and meet other goals. We will work toward that goal. Mr. Tommy Chong. Thank you. I'm from the import and export sector. We welcome the government's effort to amend our electronic transactions ordinance based on the model law. This change can foster digitization of trading. This can also support cargo X trade financing and the use of instruments in trade financing. The model law also refers to criteria such as uniqueness, exclusive control, etc. These are foreign concepts for industries that have yet to adopt technology. Full adoption of the technology can create efficiency, but there's also inconvenience for industries. I know the system will not be mandatory, but I believe more and more industry players will adopt the technology. The government will put in place a legal framework. For the trading documents commonly used by the import and export sector, can we have guidance? Can we have examples? Can we be given a checklist of what to do so that we can meet the requirements about reliability? Can we have guidelines and checklists? As, for example, the the Hong Kong Chinese Manufacturers Association, can use the guidelines to help exporters and importers to meet the requirements. Professor Wang also mentioned blockchain. The industry struggles to tell how to meet the requirements about digitalization. We need more guidance from the government on the use of blockchain, because with blockchain, the data cannot be tampered with. Can the government point the way forward? Can you show us the options so that the industry can choose? Otherwise, we'll have a hard time adapting.
Undersecretary. For SMEs that have relatively fewer resources, we provide support for them. We have the 4-in-1 support center. There's the Digital Center under Productivity Council that provide free of charge consultative services. We also have the SME Reach Out that provides advice to SMEs on how they could move towards digital transformation. We will step up support in this regard so as to enhance SMEs' knowledge and ability to transform themselves. Just now, the member asked whether there's room to include certain trade documents and instruments into our guidelines, and whether we can provide more elaborations and explanation. During the consultation, we have heard views from the relevant trade and sectors about this, and we will work with the Department of Justice as well as the relevant bureaus to see whether it's possible to digitalize certain trade documents, and then we will explore if it's possible to incorporate more kinds of trade documents into the legislative amendment. Next, Mr. Ray Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I support the legislative proposal. I think we should not only go paperless. Instead, we should go one step ahead. We should think how we can, through digitalization and ETLs, improve the chain. First, I'd like to ask about exclusive control. There should be a sandbox to be set up by the HKMA to solve any issues faced by SMEs. With digitalization, control of bills of lading is equivalent to possession. There are many kinds of documents that have to be dealt with by SMEs when making financing arrangement. And now with ETLs, that could help mitigate risk. In March this year, an MOU is signed with the mainland authorities. I hope the HKMA can make use of the trade single window as well as the commercial data change gateway to help mitigate risks and to lower SMEs' reliance on certain kinds of collateral. Also, bills of lading helps facilitate cross-boundary interoperability. If ports do not accept digital records, then they'll have to go back to paper-based forms. There are 5 major bills lading platforms in the world that help certify this kind of documents. And the new maritime law enacted in China took effect in May, and that helps recognize the use of electronic records. there are stringent requirements on data security, and loading and unloading at port also has to be taken into account. Will you learn from Singapore and talk to trade partners so that you can sign agreements with them and incorporate electronic bills of lading into the agreement and to offer protection to the government? Also, given the new maritime law in our country, will there be a new e-bill lading platform to ensure compliance rate so that relevant enterprises will not get into trouble when they are at the port? Under Secretary, I'll first address the first part of the questions on the supply chain. The HKMA could supplement. Earlier this year, on Project Cargo X, a report was released. The report sets out a series of measures put in place by the government to show how the government has been working with the HKMA to promote financing, and the trade single window is part of it. The report mentions that we need this legislative amendment so that the industry can make use of the measures and help complete the chain. This is under our radar, and this is an important element of our ecosystem. So our goal is to introduce the amendment bill to LegCo so that we can complete the legislative exercise as soon as possible to facilitate the trade in terms of financing. Second, on signing cooperation agreements with other jurisdictions, well, we do not rule out this option. There might be certain clauses on e-commerce that we sign with other economies that cover this, and so we have already been working on this. And to reply to the members' questions, what matters is that there is a legal framework that is widely recognized around the world. And also, what matters is that both contractual parties that adopt the model law recognizes this. So what is important is that both jurisdictions or both contractual parties recognize this. Anything to add by the HKMA? On the questions raised by Mr. Ray Wong, through Cargo X, we are trying to gather more data so that banks could more expeditiously approve loans taken out by SMEs. Also, in March this year, together with the Data Bureau in Shanghai as well as the Blockchain Technology Center of our country, signed an MOU. We're now exploring cross-boundary collaboration to see how we can make use of e-bills of lading to facilitate cross-boundary interoperability as well as trade financing. We'll carry on with this work in the future. Mr. Dennis Leung. This item has to do with a legislative proposal which proposes to amend Cap 553 of our law. And this is to promote digitalization, and this echoes the model law on electronic transferable records advocated by the UN. I believe the legislative amendment could provide protection to trades that would like to move towards digitalization, so I support the legislative proposal. According to the paper, by adopting electronic records and documents, it could help save time and money. Also, if we go digital, in the coming 10 years, the relevant trade can achieve cost saving of $35 billion. For SMEs that are not currently adopting electronic records, if they are to go digital, in terms of the hardware they need as well as system security and training up talent, how many resources or how much money do they have to put in compared with using paper-based forms? Will they actually benefit from the new system? Also, I believe all these arrangements will be market-driven. If the market goes fully digital, will there be measures to be put in place by the government so that enterprises or the trade can catch up with the legal requirements? Also, if the trade is to go completely digital, will there be laws or measures in place to ensure system safety? Will there be measures to be adopted by the government to ensure more efficient and safer trade? Undersecretary, we noticed that on the market, there are various systems and platforms for the trade to choose from based on the existing technology framework. And a lot of these platforms are widely recognized by international organizations. For SMEs with limited resources, they do not have to build a platform from scratch. They can simply pick a solution that is already available on the market, so the costs to be incurred would be limited. Second, for enterprises that adopt electronic B2B trade documents, they could save a lot of time and costs. According to studies done by international organizations, take bills of lading as an example. The total cost of dealing with paper form bills of lading are 3 times of that for dealing with electronic forms. So in the long run, this will bring benefit to the trade. As to what kind of support measures we will put in place, as mentioned, we will offer help to SMEs to move towards digital transformation, and will continue to strengthen the support. And that covers the 4-in-1 support centers. We have various support centers for SMEs, and there is support specifically dedicated to helping SMEs to transform themselves. And under the Productivity Council, there's a center that offers support to SMEs, and these are free of charge services offered to the SMEs to help them transform themselves. So we will continue to help SMEs. Next, Ms. Ellen Chan. Mr. Ellen Chan, thank you. I support the legislative proposal. This is to implement the model law from the UN. This model law was promulgated in 2017. According to the government estimate, in the coming 10 years, the new system can help save cost of $34.9 billion. And this is an important part for us to enhance our competitiveness. 5 years ago, Singapore already implemented the model law from the UN. If we do not quicken our pace, we would lose out to Singapore or other places. I have 2 questions. The first is about the seamless interface between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area as well as the mainland. Paragraph 5 says that only bills of lading is included in the framework. For our legislative proposal, we will include exchange note as well as promissory note. Are there plans for the Hong Kong government to work with the relevant authorities in the Greater Bay Area or in the mainland to establish a sandbox so that the exchange note and promissory note could be mutually recognized between the 2 places? Otherwise, how can you ensure highly efficient financing? Second, on financial support to emerging markets from the Middle East. The Middle East is one of, as well as the ASEAN, one of our major trade partners. Paragraph 12 says that the SAR government is leaning toward not imposing a mandatory requirement. Given that different places or countries have their own customs laws, is there someone from the CEDB that talks to the Middle East and the ASEAN about coming up with a timeline to establish a mutual recognition framework? If our new system and new technologies can address the needs of the Middle East, then we can truly help enterprises go global.
頭先同
Two questions. The first one has to do with working with the GPA, similar to Mr. Ng's question, but it's more detailed. The Deputy Secretary will take those questions. I will start by taking the second question. That question has to do with mutual recognition with other jurisdictions. As I said in my first reply to Mr. Ng's question, it depends on the preferences of the contracting parties. It depends on the governing law that the parties agree on. If the parties agree on Hong Kong's law, or they want to adopt legislation based on the model law, then that will be good enough. As we said, the focus this time is B2B trade documents. If the parties agree, then we are able to deal with those situations. Now, on discussing the matter with the customs authorities, in that case, we're talking about B2G discussions. For our trade single window, we're working on two fronts. First, we work with the mainland's customs, and we also work with the counterparties in ASEAN. We want to step up collaboration or communication with them. So that's something for the document. On the second point, alignment with the mainland. On bills of exchange and promissory notes, that is going beyond bills of lading. The mainland has selecting bills of lading for their own legislative amendment. That's because of the control in place on capital leaving the mainland. So we take a pilot approach. We start with the low-hanging fruit and we leave the rest for later. No other member has requested to speak for the second round, so I will be the last one to speak. I have a couple of questions. Members who have read paragraph 17 will see cost savings in $34.9 billion. My question is, how did we arrive at this figure? So is it based on the projected trade volume times a certain parameter? When other members spoke, they basically supported the legislation, the legislative proposal in principle. 1 year or 2 years after the legislative amendment, can we review the success and the challenges of the amendment so that the government becomes more proactive in helping the industry? Thank you. I think the members who shared valuable views with us. From time to time, we review our progress. We give members an update when appropriate on how we arrived at savings of $34.9 billion. The HKMA can tell us more about that. The UN published a study. 5 to 10% of the total trade volume is spent on dealing with paper-based trade documents. So for our projection, we look at the maritime trade. That's because they make extensive use of bills of lading. And then we multiply that by 0.75, which is a figure in the middle. 20% of the trade documents can be digitized. So we multiply the figure by 20%. The UN's estimate is that going paperless can save half the cost. So you multiply everything together, we arrive at $34.9 billion over 10 years. So members support the legislative amendment. I hope the government can keep tabs on the matter. For businesses, we need businesses to benefit from this so that this policy can truly deliver benefits for the public. We should get this right so that we can leverage Hong Kong's edge as a trading center. No other member will speak, so that concludes the discussion here. Again, this is a legislative proposal, so I put this question to members. Do we all support this proposal? Everyone in favor? Good. Thank you for joining the discussion. We thank the official for joining us. So that concludes this item. Last item, any other business? No other business. No other business for members. Thank you. I adjourn the meeting here. Thank you.
Okay, 唔該晒。